Hare Krishna. That was some nice meditation, huh? Srila Prabhupada, the founder, Acharya, the guru of the society, he wanted that the Hare Krishna mantra become a household word, because he knew how much people would benefit from this chanting. So there was one instance where a friend of mine was in his dining room honoring prasadam, and his daughter was watching the funnies, the Bugs Bunny show. So she ran into her father, where his father was eating, and she said, "Dad, Bugs Bunny is chanting Hare Krishna." He said, "What?" And he went in, and sure enough, Bugs Bunny is rowing about, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So you can't get much more household than that. In our Vedic literatures, it said that Kalir doshin he rajan asti he vikavahaguna. That in this age of Kali, the best way of advancement in spiritual life is this chanting of Hare Krishna. There's many ages. Kali Yuga is considered to be the most degraded age. Just like we have 4 seasons, there's 4 ages, and Kali Yuga is the worst. But in this age, there's a special concession, and that is that simply by chanting this Hare Krishna mantra, one can become completely purified of all material contamination and be qualified to enter into the spiritual world. So it's a very powerful meditation. So I was thinking that we would read from one of our famous books, the Bhagavad Gita. One of my favorite verses. This is from the 6th chapter, text 20 to 23. I'll just gradually go through this. Krishna says, in the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. Now, many people think that perfection in life is to get a big house, nice car, nice husband or wife and children. But the problem with this is it's temporary. These bodies are going to get old, as I'm noticing, and they're going to die. But we don't die. We don't die. We continue. So better to make some arrangements so that when this body does die, we have a better arrangement. Because the soul can either go up or it can go down. Better go up. So that's what Krishna's given us. He's given us information by which we can go up and not down. So here he mentions that one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities. So material mental activities generally means that one becomes filled with stress. It's like I went to the doctor yesterday, and they gave me some form to fill out. And the first thing that of the questionnaire was, are you feeling stress? And then they wanted, what level of stress are you feeling? Of course, I put no stress, chanting Hare Krishna. But it's such a rampant problem. People, this is the main disease in the world now, is stress. So this comes from material, mental activities. But there's also spiritual mental activities. And from spiritual mental activities, one becomes elevated. One experiences inner happiness, no stress, no fear, no anxiety. So this is the result of this meditation and of hearing. This hearing of these transcendental literatures is like the chanting. It also purifies. It's very nice. The Bhagavad Gita, you could read it over and over again, and each time you read it, you get new insight, you get new realization. You may not believe this, but I've lost count of how many times I read it. Dozens of times. And it's so inspiring each time. So we don't have any Bhagavad Gitas here for some reason, but I think we're going to be able to get some there. Who here does not have a Bhagavad Gita? Don't be shy. Okay, a few people. We'll have some here after the class. Highly recommended reading. Even Einstein was very fond of it. So, continuing with this, Krishna says, this perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind. To see the self by the pure mind. Now here, the self is a capital S. So there's the soul within this body, and there's a super soul. There's another soul next to the soul, whom we are. And that super soul is the soul that goes with us wherever we go. Whatever lifetime we've been in, that super soul has been there as well. Wherever we go, he goes. So the more one advances in spiritual life, the more one is able to be conscientious of this super soul. I remember when I was a child, my mother used to say, now you be good because God's looking over, he's watching you. And I look up, I don't see no God looking over. But there is, and that's the super soul. The super soul within. Not looking down, but he's aware of everything. So Krishna says here that this perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind. Imagine having a pure mind. No anxiety, no envy, no lust, no greed, no anomalies, just pure mind. So that's the result of practicing this spiritual life. One becomes pure mind, pure heart, pure soul, and then we're purely happy. Yeah. Confirmed, you see. You heard that, you see? In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness. Boundless transcendental happiness. Not material happiness. Material happiness comes to a certain level and then it goes down, right? But spiritual happiness is always increasing. It's called Anandam Buddhivardhanam. It's an ever-increasing ocean of transcendental bliss. This is spiritual happiness. And this is what everyone wants, right? We all want happiness which is ever-increasing, right? Right? Nobody wants happiness is going to decrease, right? But that's all we see in material world. Material happiness means it comes to a certain level and goes down. Spiritual happiness goes up and up. There's no limit. It keeps going up. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness realized through transcendental senses. Imagine having transcendental senses. Now we have material senses where we're just trying to enjoy material things. But when you get spiritual senses, especially the mind, see, the mind is also a subtle sense. When the mind becomes pure, it's not interested in just exploiting, but rather in giving. See, the material mind wants to take, always take, trying to get things. Spiritual mind is always giving, wants to give. Just like Srila Prabhupada again, our Param Guru, spiritual master, he came from India at the age, he left when he was 69, he arrived when he was 70, and his interest was in just giving Krishna as much as he can, and that's why we're all sitting here. He was a giver, he wanted to give. And now all over the world, there's meetings like this going on so that people can advance in spiritual life. So us followers of Srila Prabhupada are called Prabhupada Anugas. We're trying to be followers, trying to follow in his footsteps, giving the holy name, giving books, giving prasadam. Prasadam means transcendental foodstuffs. So it's a giving society. We just want to give, and give more. And many people are appreciating, because this is transcendental. All this that we're giving, Krishna says, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir, Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam, Brahmaivatena Gantavir, Brahmakarma Samadhina. That one who is engaged fully in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full spiritual activities, in which that which is offered is a spiritual nature, and that which is accepted is of the same spiritual nature. We only give things that are in relation to Krishna, and we only accept things that are in relation to Krishna. It's getting a little warm in here. Can we open that door there? We're in the summertime now. So continuing with this. Established thus, one never departs from the truth. And upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So, in this material world, there's many situations in which people become shook up. But as it's said here, Krishna says, when one becomes advanced in spiritual life, you're not shaken by any circumstance. It's a nice level of consciousness. So I was reading recently that if you have a snow-capped mountain, okay, Himalayas or something, and the sun is beating down on the snow-capped mountain, the sun melts the layers of snow. Yeah. So similarly, when one's consciousness receives this sun-like knowledge, the layers of ignorance are removed. Layers of ignorance are removed by hearing, by engaging in spiritual activities. One gets purified. And there's many different types of ignorance. One of the main types of ignorance is people are in illusion. People are in illusion. The main illusion is people are thinking that we're this material body. Or sometimes it goes beyond that. I was in the Miami airport one time, and I heard this person screaming out loud, "Let me go! Let me go! Don't you know I'm the President of the United States? Let me go!" And the 4 policemen are dragging him down the hallway. "Let me go! Let me go! I'm the President, don't you know?" A little bit of illusion there. So people in illusion thinking that, just like there's people in the insane asylum thinking they're Napoleon or Jesus Christ or something. But we're also in illusion thinking that we're this material body. We're the soul within. The body is a vessel for the soul. There's one great saint, Bhakti Thakur. He says, "The flesh is not my own, alas. The mortal frame a chain. The soul confined for former wrongs should try to rise again. Why then this childish play in that which is not my own, which falls within 100 years as if a rose blown?" So one might ask, well, how is the body a chain? The body is a chain in the sense that because of attachment to the material body, we continue in the cycle of birth and death. It's called samsara. Samsara means the repetition of birth and death. So this human form of life is a loophole on how to get out, on how to escape. It's called the Great Escape. This is the Great Escape, if you can escape the cycle of birth and death. So, Bhakti Thakur is one of the great saints in our line, and he gives so much direction on how to escape from material life. So continuing with what I was thinking about this morning. Oh, Prabhupada, he says that sometimes people are in such illusion. Maya means illusion. So sometimes people are in such illusion, they get in an accident. They say someone gets in an accident and he goes to the hospital. And his arm is up and his leg is up and he got patches around him and just messed up. And then a friend comes to see him and he says, "So, how you feeling? How's it going?" Yeah, all right. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, okay. So this is illusion. Or sometimes I'm on book distribution. That's my main service, and quite often people they say to me, "No." When I offer them a book, I say, "No, I'm good." That's like a mantra that comes back to me. I'm good. And I tell them, "Well, but you can be better." And quite often they come back and say, "Well, you're right, actually. What do you got here?" And sometimes they say, "Yeah, you're right. I could be better. Isn't it? We could always be better." But sometimes people ask me, "So how you doing, Vijay? How's it going?" Well, could be better, could be worse, right? So that's the way it is in the material world. Could be better, right? Could be worse. Right? So this process of spiritual life is meant to help us become better and not worse. So this human form of life is it's actually a great gift given to us. There's many different species of life. It's described in the Vedas that there's 8,400,000 different species of life. The human form of life is the best form because this is the form where we can inquire, why am I here? What happens at the time of death? What is the goal of life? These are the questions of an intelligent person. Now, some people have the human form of life and they don't ask these questions. What do they ask? They ask how to eat, how to sleep, how to mate, how to defend, which is pretty much what the animals are doing. This is the activities of the animals: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So the human being is also only doing these things, then they're like polished animals, because they're doing the same things. So there's so many different species of life that have amazing abilities. Just like this, the spider. There's a spider that can shoot its silk 80 feet to make their web. Imagine 80 feet. That's a long ways to make a web. And they make amazing webs. Probably from their birth, they can make these amazing webs. And they didn't go to school. No engineering school. But they make these amazing webs. Or there's a bird that can fly over 200 miles an hour. Fast, yeah. So what are they flying for? To catch their prey. And why are the spiders making their webs? Dinner, breakfast, lunch. So the human form of life is actually a great boon where we can inquire about the absolute truth. Animals can't inquire. We'll never see a dog come in here and sit and listen and look like they're having any interest. No animal will. But the human being, they inquire. What is the goal of life? There's a statement, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth. So this is a human being. They inquire, what is the truth? And fortunately, the truth comes. But there's the ascending and there's the descending. Sometimes people, they try to find the truth by their own ability. There's actually one person that I could think of that was able to find some of the truth on his own ability by the ascending process. And that was Socrates. Just by his intellect, he was able to realize that he was the soul within. Without any teacher, without any guidance from any scripture, just by his vast intellect, he was able to realize he was the soul within. So realized. Amazing. But most of the time, it's descending. We're getting knowledge from a teacher. We're getting knowledge from Krishna, or you're getting knowledge from another source, from spiritual guidance. Otherwise, so much speculation, so many theories, and they don't reach the ultimate goal. If one reads, for instance, if one reads the Bhagavad Gita, then one can attain the highest goal of life, of going back to the spiritual world. This is actually the goal of the human form of life. The reason we have this material world, the purpose of the material world, is to wake us up from this materialistic consciousness. And sometimes it takes a little shaking, a little shake-up for us to wake up. I'll tell you an interesting thing that happened with one son of a very wealthy man. He was studying anthropology. So he was in one island in the South Pacific, studying a certain tribe. So he was there studying this tribe, and he liked to ride motorcycles. So within the city there, he rented a motorcycle, and he's cruising around the island there. And then he turned up missing. His father was trying to contact him. No contact. And he was supposed to have returned, and he hadn't returned. So the father didn't know what to do, so he decided to go to this island and try to find him. So he was searching everywhere trying to find him, and he knew that his son rode a motorcycle, so he went to the motorcycle shop and described his son. He said, yeah, he rented a motorcycle some weeks ago, haven't seen him. He was supposed to return it, don't know what happened. So at least he knows he's got a motorcycle, he's on the island somewhere, so he's searching. And finally he gets to a village, and he sees his son there. He sees his son. He says, hey, son. Complete amnesia. Total amnesia. Didn't recognize his father at all. He's speaking to him. He couldn't. It's like... So evidently these villagers had found him and just thought they'd, have him join the tribe. So he's doing little menial services there in the village, and the father just doesn't know what to do. So he thinks of one doctor in the city where he lives who deals mainly with amnesia. So he decided to go back to the mainland, USA, and he found this doctor and explained the situation, and the doctor said, well, I got to go. So they went there together. And the doctor, upon seeing the serious situation, he told the father that he's going to have a shock treatment. What's that? Well, that's where you shock someone and they snap out of it. This is like the extreme measure for amnesia. So he shocked him, and sure enough, it worked. As soon as he was shocked, he came out of it. Dad, what are you doing here? What am I doing here? What are we doing here? So he explained the situation. So sometimes Krishna also puts a little shock treatment in people just to wake them up. Anybody have the experience of shock treatment? some difficulty in your life, and just like, whoa. Yeah, I had that experience sometimes, and it's good. It kind of wakes us up. That's the purpose of the material world, is to wake us up. What's that? Yeah, it's good to wake up. We're sleeping, thinking that we're this material body, but the purpose of life is to wake up, that we're actually the soul within. And this hearing is so important. There's a reason why we have 2 ears and only 1 mouth, to hear more and speak less. And from hearing comes understanding. And I'll tell you another amazing story that happened here in San Diego. There was one life member. He's very much connected with the temple here. He has a big house, wealthy man. He was sleeping, middle of the night, and his alarm goes off. Now his alarm was our spiritual master, Param Guru, singing some songs. That was his alarm. So it went off, and he was thinking, why did it go off? I didn't even set it. He didn't set his alarm, but it went off anyway. And when he woke up, he found that his house was on fire. And he had just enough time to get, whatever valuables he had. He got out, and the house burned down to nothing. Krishna woke him up. He didn't set the alarm, but it went off anyway. So there's mystical things that happen in spiritual life. I experience them all the time when I distribute books here at Balboa Park. They call Balboa Park the jewel of San Diego. There's a lot of jewels going out in that jewel, a lot of books going out. And these books, they're not actually ink and paper. They're jewels, diamonds, very valuable. And if someone reads them and takes them seriously, then you also become very valuable. You become rich spiritually. This material wealth, not so important. So many very wealthy people, billionaires, leaving their bodies, leaving their, dying. Can they take anything with them? Steve Jobs, he left not long ago, some years ago, multi-billionaire. How much could he take with him? Nothing. There's a nice thing about Steve Jobs. When he was just starting out, he was still a student. He used to walk 7 miles to go to the Sunday feast at the Hare Krishna temple in Portland, Oregon. Yeah. He had no money. So he'd go to the Hare Krishnas and get a free food, nice vegetarian free food. So that goes to his credit, his spiritual credit. So, is there any question or comment?
Ask a question or leave a comment.
Hi,
Hare
this
Krishna.
is for my clarification. You mentioned
For your
clarification. The word self, when it's capitalized, it's speaking not about the living entity self, but about the super soul.
Yes.
Okay.
You're very attentive. Very good.
Is it in the context of the relationship between the living entity and the super soul, or simply the super soul isolated, the self?
Yeah. Well, there's just like it's described that in a tree. There's a green tree, and there's 2 birds. So one bird is trying to enjoy the fruits of the tree, and the other bird is observing the other bird that's trying to enjoy the fruits of the tree. So we're the individual soul trying to enjoy the fruits of our activities, and the super soul, he's observing everything we're doing. Everything we do throughout our life is being observed, and it's being written down, tallied. And just like in a store, so many things are being sold, right? And at the end of the day, they push one button and it's all tallied up. So at the end of our life, a button is going to be pushed, and exactly what we deserve is going to come up. Yeah. Yeah. So Therefore, it's highly recommended that we live a divine spiritual life, so that when it's tallied up, it's all good.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. There was used to be a radio station in Brazil. It was a radio station, and it was just good news. All good news. No bad news at all. But after 6 months, they had to stop. They ran out of good news. There's plenty of bad news, right? You don't run out of bad news. And it's amazing that people, they like to hear the bad news, right? You know, the morning news, and then the evening news. Nobody walks away inspired, right? Wow, that was great news, you know? That was fantastic. It's depressing, right? Therefore, devotee, we don't watch the news, or try to avoid it as much as possible, because you know it's actually depressing. But this is it's all good news. Just like we have our Srimad Bhagavatam class. You're all welcome if you ever like to come. Every morning at 7:45, we have a Srimad Bhagavatam class. And do we still have the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday? They're doing it. Also, every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we have the Bhagavad Gita class given by our great saint Dravida Prabhu, who's been doing this for how many years? Going on 50 years now. He's very intelligent. He's our scholar here in San Diego. So highly recommended. That starts at what time? 7:15 p.m. and 7:45 a.m. right here in the temple room. You're all welcome. And then we have nice breakfast afterwards. Yeah. So there's any other question or comments? Reflection? Okay. People are hungry. And we have an announcement by Damodar Kumar Prabhu.
Yeah, so very grateful to you for a nice lecture. A round of applause for Vijay Prabhu. Thank you.